People who actually had sex with step siblings. Why? Well, our parents moved in together before they got married, and we were 16 and horny. We dated off and on for longer than our parents were married, and it was very convenient as a teenager to live in a soundproof basement with my GF living upstairs. It got a little weird when our parents caught us, but they eventually accepted it. Then we broke up, our parents divorced, and we moved to separate states. A little awkward. I'd anticipate a lot awkward. Not my story, but a guy I went to college with. His mom and her dad got married. Both of them got kicked out of the house. They were mid-20s. They moved in together, dated, and got engaged. He loved seeing people's reaction when he told them he was marrying his sister. Ultimate trolls lol. Good for them. Some couples I know don't even have that in common. In my hometown there was a reverse case. The boy's mother died, and the girl was daughter of a single mom. The two married, and always invited their parents for everything. The parents grew close, and ended up marrying. So, the first couple ended up being married step-siblings. These case ended on the court, where the judge decided that, while step-sibling marriage is illegal, the law can't be applied to past cases, as they weren't step-sibling when they married, and no law forbid the older couple to marry, as they weren't from the same family before their children's marriage. So everybody got happy ever after. I didn't know it was a law that step-siblings can't marry. Why would that be illegal? Because they have affective bonds. In Brazil, they say they are siblings by heart. Not me, but an old friend of mine had a stepsister. They were around 14 to 15 when their families got together, and being at that age and suddenly having a girl who isn't related to you by blood staying in close proximity made it hard for them. I guess one day they realized that, since their parents often weren't home, they could literally fuck and not have anyone catch them or wonder what they're doing, since they're brother and sister. This apparently went on until the sister went to uni. They're both in separate relationships and still get along well, but not too well anymore, if you know what I mean. I think I know what you mean. Same thing happened with an ex-boyfriend and his stepsister after we broke up. After we graduated, I guess, that left a lot of time on his hands, and I think they just both wanted to lose their virginities, so went at it until one got into a relationship. The next girl he ended up with was insanely jealous that he was still my friend on Facebook, so we had to say goodbye. But I always wonder what would happen if/when she found out who he had an actual sexual relationship with. Lol. Wow. Jealous that someone is on your man's friend list. Impressive. My friend met this guy while studying abroad, and they ended up dating and getting engaged over a 2.5 year period. Then my friend's mother calls and says she's getting married. Long story short, my friend's fiance ended up being her mother's new husband's son he kicked out, cut off, and disowned 8 years earlier. Did they end up getting married, your friend and stepbrother? Yes, but their parents' marriage had ended. They had less than 4 months, and his father is now on his 6th marriage. Maybe if I keep trying I'll end up with someone compatible. So this is a very strange situation. Not me, but my mom and dad. Long before my parents even met, my grandparents on both sides got divorced. My parents met, got married, and had me, but ended up divorced before I could form memories. I don't know when it happened. I do know that after my parents got divorced, my mom's dad and my dad's mom got married. They are still married to this day. Because of that, technically, my parents are step-siblings that had sex. It might have been before they became step-siblings, but I think the story fits. This reminds me of a family I know. There was a brother and sister, let's call them Bob and Sue, that married a woman and a guy that we'll call Erin and Will. So now Bob and Erin are married, Sue and Will are married, and both couples have kids. These kids grow up, and then Bob and Sue both die. Now Erin and Will are widowed/widowed, but have spent much of their adult life together as in-laws at family gatherings and holidays. One thing leads to another, and Erin and Will get married. Now their adult children refer to them as Mom and Uncle Will, or Dad and Aunt Erin. My brother's ex-wife and my sister's ex-husband are have been seeing each other for a couple years. Both of my siblings are bitter about it, but honestly, both of my siblings are kind of jerks, so I completely support this step up for the exes. A guy I knew in high school got laid in the middle of the football field, so it was notable for many reasons and he bragged around about it. Right after our freshman year of college they became step siblings lol. Hey beauty. This is a new stepsister. Why don't you two get to know each other while I talk with her mom? Of course dad, I would love that. Dad, winks. So my cousin, he's 21 now, and his stepsister, 20, were dating in high school. They got caught doing the naughty in class and their parents were called in, and his dad, my uncle, and her mom, my now aunt, met and fell for each other, and now they are married. So my cousin and his ex/stepsister broke up. I was always super close to my cousin, so I'm close to her too, and knew her pretty well before they were step siblings. Maybe about a year ago I got high with them and asked them if they ever banged after their parents were married, and they seemed to get pretty uncomfortable and denied it. I giggled a bit because like, that's a yes. She has since admitted to me that they had once, but he won't admit it. I ain't judging them, it's kind of a weird situation. She's not bad looking, so I'd probably have to. What's kinda weird was I was in their house when they had, because the family was drinking, and I guess that led to things. I always get a good chuckle when I think of it. Imagine taking your parents to school because you fucked up by fucking your GF only to find out that they are gonna fuck you up by fucking your GF's parents and making you and her steps that fucked each other and ultimately fucked up their life. That's a lot of fucking going on. How? Fuck. Pornhub must be down for maintenance. Op had to come find out the rest of the storyline. I woke up this morning to a 17-year-old asking if girls pee from their vaginas. That's how my day started. Well, do they? Lol please. Like girls actually pee. As a girl, can confirm that girls' bathrooms only exist for us to skip classes or cry in. Because we both wanted to learn more about each other's bodies. I worked with a guy who claimed his stepsister gave him head because she wanted practice. I thought he was full of shit. Later that year, I had some friends that had a co-worker that said she used her stepbrother for practice in bed. Turns out my co-worker was her stepbrother, and he wasn't full of shit. He had quit by time I found out, not that I would have brought it up. They were like 16 to 18 years old. She was pretty, so I could see him having trouble fighting her off. So yeah, it probably happens often, but isn't admitted often. Those two had no shame though, kind of strange. I mean, why feel shame? Shitload of kids had divorced parents when I was in high school, and a bunch of those parents met one another and dated, resulting in horny teenagers with zero relation suddenly living together and being left home alone together a lot. Yeah, if you become siblings at 3 years old and grow up together, gross. But hey, 16-year-olds, you guys are brother and sister now. Good luck with that one. As you say, it happens all the time, but people don't talk about it because it sounds pretty messed up, and in certain circumstances it can be, but your parents hooking up don't magically make you actual siblings. Kind of a different perspective, but I dated a girl in high school and it didn't work out. I began dating another girl in college and 2 years later they became stepsisters. I didn't realize this until we met a new stepsister at the mall and she introduced us to each other. We both were horribly awkward silent the whole day, and I eventually told my GF later that I used to date her new stepsister. She broke up with me because of it and refuses to talk to her stepsister as well. I think their parents have been married about 5 to 6 years now. I honestly felt terrible about it. I don't know why you felt bad. It wasn't as if you or the two step siblings knew what was going to happen later down the road. I will ask if she broke up with as soon as she knew, or if she at least tried to get past the awkwardness of the situation. No, it was the very next morning. She stayed up all night thinking about it and couldn't handle it. Because if he's gonna be fucking my mom, you bet your ass I'll be fucking his daughter. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This is clearly just everyday science. It's decided then. I'm about to apply Newton's law on my stepbro. The law of equivalent exchange. Nice try, Pornhub. Go find your own plots. How many times do we have to go through stepbro? I can't find the water. Stepbro, what is the meaning of life? It's on the USB drive on the ground. Mine bending over to pick it up. Oops, my panties dropped off. Can you believe it? This doesn't really count, but it's close enough. We were step-siblings for only 18 months in our teens, and then our parents divorced. We didn't have much contact for the few years after the divorce, but started talking more eventually, and hung out some. We actually eventually started dating, and sustained that all through college and a little after, for a total of about 6 years. After college we hit a rough patch and broke up. That was 4 years ago. Our parents were very accepting, honestly, so that made it easy. We always told people, other than our closest friends and family, that we were friends of the family when they asked how we met. Lol. It was weird, but we were very much in love, and I do miss her. What was the rough patch about? Was it worth giving up what you built for 6 years? That cheating. We want that basement part, not plot synopsis. Easy access for horny teenagers has a forbidden element which makes sneaking around and hiding it from parents more exciting. Mad at parents for remarrying / moving in another family, and it's a way to act out. Porn shows it, so people think porn is real and try to recreate. Do you think step-siblings only considered banging after sex was put to video? No, but it probably became more common. TLDR, we didn't. I said no and that upset him. My stepbrother asked me to have sex with him one night when I was 14'ish and he was 16'ish. We lived in a more secluded part of the house, in the finished basement. He was in my room when he asked. I said no. He then continued to convince me and said that we should, because all his friends were confused that we hadn't, and that it wasn't a big deal. I said no again, was spooked and hid in my room the rest of the night, and didn't sleep well. He then started treating me like shit, and putting me down constantly, basically bullying me. I had lost my virginity to my boyfriend about a year later, and I hid it from my parents, and somehow he found out, and started to into my parents, whenever he could, that I had sex. I heard him complaining about me one night to his mom, my stepmom, stating that I was manipulative and acted like a princess. Despite that not being true, I decided to stop talking to him, thinking that would help avoid future issues or requests, and my stepmom got so mad that she told me to talk to him or I could move out. I wasn't 18 yet. All because I said no to his request to fuck me. I never told my dad or stepmother, but did tell my siblings and fiance. I'm not even sure how to think of this entire situation. I don't think he's on Reddit, but if he is and sees this, I bet there is a purely perverted reason you clicked on this thread. Not a step-siblings, but think it's relevant. My cousin was dating this girl since they were 13. When they turned 16 their parents got a divorce and then got married to each other's, her mom, my uncle. There was about 6 months where they were both like, fuck it, this is too easy now. Just because I'm an asshole I love telling people my cousin is hot. She is drop dead gorgeous honestly, and then explaining the above situation. They are not friendly anymore, although they get along. While at family events, she is the most well adjusted of our family and on the path to be the most successful. If they are not blood related and they don't have a sister/brother dynamic and didn't grow up together, why not? The problem starts when you break up. Then what? You'll keep seeing each other and it will be forever uncomfortable. I mean, I don't think it's relationships. It's probably just two horny teenagers locked in a house together with all the time in the world to hook up. So I actually married my stepbrother. I was raised by my mom and stepdad. I consider him my dad, seeing as he got with my mom when I was young enough to not remember life before him. Years before my dad ever met my mom, he had a baby when he was a teenager. He married the mother for a very short year-long marriage. Then after they got divorced, she took the baby and never contacted him again. My dad knew he had a baby, but never had anything to do with said baby. We as a family knew he had a baby, but honestly I never even knew if it was a boy or girl. My dad knew obviously, but we didn't talk about it often, except that we all knew. In my early 20s, my parents and sisters and I went to dinner with my dad's sister. She tells us at dinner that they found his son and we're in contact with him. We were all shocked. She also tells us that he would like to meet us at Thanksgiving. We all agree and are unsure of how he's going to be. My dad's son was raised by a mother and family who hated my dad, so we assumed he would probably not be too thrilled about meeting us. Also, I have 2 sisters, both half, and only the youngest is my dad's biological daughter, even though he raised all 3 of us. My dad's sister and her side of the family always put a weird emphasis on the fact that my middle sister and I are not blood, so we assumed the son would too. We let our youngest sister meet her biological brother and that was that. Long story short, I become super close with this guy. We got along very well and got to the point that we were on the phone for hours a day every day for about 8 months. One night we decided to tell each other that we felt a lot more for each other. We talked a lot about it and decided to try being together. It was wonderful and almost everyone was completely fine with it since we didn't grow up together or anything weird. He also doesn't consider my dad his dad, so that makes it easier too. My sister, who is also his sister, had the hardest time adjusting, but she's fine now and lives with us and everything worked out fine. So, yes, we also have sex obviously, but we are married legally so. Throwaway for obvious reasons. Not exactly my stepsister, it's worse actually I guess. It was my cousin. She grew up on the other side of the country and I never knew about her existence. My mom didn't stay in contact with that side of the family at that point. She found me on social media when I was 19 and she was 18 and we talked from time to time. It's safe to say she was really attractive, but I never wanted to mention it because I felt weird. But to my surprise she was the one who initiated flirty remarks towards my looks. I actually ignored them at that time or just laughed them off. Couple of years later she was coming over to my city to see her boyfriend who was working here, but she couldn't stay at his place because well, he didn't have one. He was already sleeping on a friend's sofa. She asked if she could stay at my apartment and I said sure, no problem. She came by the following weekend late Friday evening with a bottle of gin as a thank you for letting her stay. Now, I rarely drink, but she's a crazy party person and kept guilt tripping me into drinking more. I was having fun to be honest, so I complied, and at one point I was drunk enough to allow myself to get kissed. I mean, I know it's strange as hell, because she was my cousin, but this was the first time in my life I ever saw that girl, so emotionally I didn't see her as one and seriously, she was ridiculously hot. My penis was thinking for me at that point. We laughed it off saying yeah that was inappropriate, and stayed up for another couple of hours watching shit on Netflix and drinking. Eventually we both felt tired, and I started taking an inflatable mattress out of my wardrobe so that she didn't have to sleep on the floor. I only have one bed here and always offer it to people staying over. She stopped me midway saying that she thought she would just sleep next to me in my bed. I would be lying if I said I felt uncomfortable then. I was more like yeah whatever, I'm drunk and I wanna sleep now. After we got into bed, long story short, she cuddled up with me, started rubbing her hand against my arm, then chest and went down into my pants. Before this gets too detaily and turns into some fanfiction novel, I'm just gonna say straight up, we had sex after and then went to sleep. I don't regret this or feel ashamed. I don't feel guilty either. I hadn't known her before, didn't see her as a real blood cousin kind of thing and she initiated every step of the interaction. If she wasn't so attractive I probably wouldn't have done it. It was years ago now, we talk occasionally, but after she left to go back to her city we never spoke of it again. My now fiance knows about it and thinks it's funny, but doesn't want to ever see her, which isn't too much of an issue, because it's not like we have family meetups every year. Regular me, this is my cousin. Horny me, this is my cousin but attractive. r/AskReddit is leaking. Wait. Just about got caught in an infinite loop. The end. Thanks for watching.